Hello, my name is Brayanoski.
I'm Austin Morales, and you're watching The Inner Gamer On.
And today we'll be talking about CD Projekt Red making big changes following the release of Cyberpunk 2077 to their mission, their structure, and much, much more. It's good, maybe bad. I don't really know yet, but it's got me a little concerned. But we are going to talk about all of it and then some. Let's jump on in.
And as always, if you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and bang that bell, because YouTube wants you to work hard for things you like these days. So, you got to do what you got to do. So, thanks.
Work hard for your money, but you better not copyright claim. First up, we have CD Projekt Red. It's back in the news. They have been working diligently, you'd think, maybe, I don't know, with the new updates for Cyberpunk. They brought out a patch with over 500 fixes. That was a point of pride for them. And then
300 more breaks.
Concerned. Yeah,
in the code.
Breaks. I love there was a meme going out about like how they fixed the sleeping animation, I guess, in the game that people were like upset about, because whenever you went to go lay down, I guess the way that your character lay down in first person was like on the side of the bed, like half your body hanging off of it or something like that.
Yeah, it's weird.
It was super strange, but they came out with a video that was like a strategy update for their company. And a lot of this is in response to Cyberpunk 2077 and the issues that they ran into. Some of which I'm like, hey, this is awesome. Other things I'm like, that's a little ambitious. But one of the big things that they talked about doing here is they're gonna change their whole mission and structure. They're trying to be better with their teams. They're expanding. They're growing. They're going to build a team actually that's going to help them with the game engine to kind of maintain systems across game development, because they are planning to, starting next year, develop 2 games simultaneously as opposed to focusing on one game as they've been doing, which, as we've seen with Cyberpunk 2077, I'm like, is that a good thing? I don't know. Not so sure about that. But they're also thinking to expand their team also. I mean, they just bought a studio that they've named CD Projekt Red Vancouver, building on beyond that. But the fact that they're going to try and simultaneously run literally 2 games at the same time. I don't know if it's going to be The Witcher and Cyberpunk, or if there's going to be another one involved in that. That is yet to be seen. But they are going to be also looking to do more single player plus online kind of games. Parallel IP development, as we mentioned, changing their development structure from waterfall to agile delivery, which I'm surprised they weren't doing that already. And then AAA plus broad IP ecosystem. So beyond just focusing on AAA games, doing more variety of things, mobile, beyond gaming, those kinds of things, and then focus in on both being quality focus and team focus. So that's another thing I'm like, okay, maybe they should have been team focused before, but is what it is. But yeah, they're just trying to probably save face a little bit from all the controversy that they had after the launch of Cyberpunk. What do y'all think about some of these things? This article that we're pulling from is from GameSpot, but what are y'all's thoughts on the new direction of CD Projekt Red going into the future, knowing where they are currently?
It has its ups and downs. I'd say it's mostly a step in the right direction. It's the right line of thinking, but a lot of this rhetoric is, I think, just should have been in place before.
Yeah,
like why were you not focused on your team? And CD Projekt Red was always the darling child of the industry. They're like, yes, we don't overwork our workers, we don't do overtime, everybody gets paid what they should. And then it took them 8 years to not even finish a game. So everything that CD Projekt Red does, now given our current knowledge of them, I kind of have to hold at a distance until they actually deliver on some stuff.
Sad day, man.
Yeah, I mean, I never played The Witcher, so I didn't even know who CD Projekt was until Cyberpunk ended up being in the collective consciousness. So most of this stuff seems like it's in the right direction, but the one thing I'm worried about is the parallel IPs, because they couldn't even make a single IP.
Yeah, what the.
So I think they did say that one of them is going to be a Witcher game and one of them is going to be a Cyberpunk game. I think it's safe to assume that the next Witcher game they're going to be working on is The Witcher 4, unless they are going to do like a sequel to Gwent or something along the lines of Gwent. But my thing is, they're currently all hands on deck trying to fix Cyberpunk 2077 and make it what they initially said it was going to be. And it's pretty ambitious of them, I think, to think that it will be finished by the end of this year or beginning of next year, because they said they want to start production on those two new things in the beginning of 2022 with their new studio and their existing studio. So they definitely have a lot of goodwill they have to try to earn back from everybody after how burned everyone felt from Cyberpunk 2077. And I'm super nervous to see them working on two things simultaneously, and while they still have this big question mark that is Cyberpunk 2077 out there, they said that they're gonna stop working on the multiplayer for Cyberpunk. So I don't know, man. I'm kind of at a loss for words what their plans are going forward.
Yeah, I was going to mention that they did say that it sounds like, I mean, I don't think it's been officially confirmed, but the conversation that's been happening is it sounds like they are definitely putting that on hold. And I was bummed out because like whenever Cyberpunk first came out, I bought on PC because I wanted to have it in the big awesome graphics. I knew that'd be the best place to play it. But then I also picked it up because of the fact I was having so many issues on the PC version, especially like the day one launch. I was like, I'm also going to buy it on PS5 and then see how it goes there. Because I was like, I'm going to play this eventually with friends on multiplayer. So I'm going to get it now when I got it like $10 off on Amazon or something like that. Picked it up and then they announced this. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I need to, I don't know, maybe it's worth something now because you still can't get it on the PlayStation stores. So maybe I can sell it to somebody for like a crazy amount of money. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting that they said is that they're going to make the marketing and PR campaigns much shorter than they had with this one, which is weird to me to hear this because up until like the last year before the game came out, Cyberpunk 2077 was being praised for being silent and coming out with this like this idea. They were saying that the game will be ready when it's ready. It'll be done when it's done. And that was their whole entire pitch for so long. And, they announced that trailer back in 2013 where they revealed the game and then they went silent for a while. And then they finally started kicking out the marketing campaign right before launch and started getting bigger and bigger. So really, in my mind, I mean, it was a little bit longer than it should because of the delays. But in reality, like they would have, if they launched at the time that they intended to launch, it would have been a pretty short cycle here. And I'm just nervous about like the future games, like what is even shorter, because they were being praised for how short the cycle was, how good they were being with the people of like communicating and all these things. And then it just like completely did a 360 like or 180 or whatever when the game actually comes out, where it's like, okay, what happened all the way leading up to this release? Like you guys were put on a pedestal, like this is going to be great. The Witcher 3 like sold like crazy amounts and did so well. And then now here we are with Cyberpunk that just bombed. And
the higher you are, the harder you fall. And I feel like all the stuff they're saying here, it's all just PR BS in my mind at this point. And I felt like they were doing all this before. Like, wasn't this the whole point of their company? Like everything they've just said here or was outlined in this summary, in this article. It's like, what are you doing? Like they are just trying to save face. And it's going to take way more. I mean, the more I think about it, I think the more I actually hate Cyberpunk 2077. I mean, I had some good times with it and stuff. And yeah, it's like, we were talking before we started this, like it's only skin deep and there's so much more that needed to be in here. And, Jason Schreier came out and was like, this was supposed to, everyone in development of this game were thinking it was coming out in 2022. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, guess what's coming out? Yeah. It's like, what? And I don't understand. This happens like, no one would have thought it would happen to CD Projekt Red, but it keeps happening to like every major video game company, and no one understands that this is the worst thing for you. Like, I just don't get it. How is this the way to go? If there's an issue, like they were getting so many people to, fund them, and I understand money becomes an issue at a point, but maybe the issue was like, let's make this massive game and this is how it's just going to be, but maybe you should scale back a little bit. And I think we had a conversation before on a few podcasts, like games as a service needs to be scaled back. And you think about logically, like what kind of game you're going to make. Let's make that. And if it's successful, build out with DLCs. And then by the time, you can make the Game of the Year edition where it's like an 80-hour game or a 100-hour game or whatever. And it's like, it's built the way it should be,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think a big part of CD Projekt's praise in the last maybe year or two before the 2020 hellstorm that was the Cyberpunk marketing was the fact that we didn't know anything about it and the expectation that creates within the consumer. Because when you don't know anything and they've been just kind of keeping the lid closed for so long, your mind gets racing. And then from what they showed, what they showed at, what was it, E3 2019? One of the E3s, there was a playable demo, and then Jason Schreier basically, proved that to be just a vertical slice or just a fabrication essentially. Yeah. And so the fact that they just straight up lied about it, the damage has pretty much already been done for me in terms of CD Projekt. So I don't know if I can really trust anything that they do, like you said, Austin.
Yeah.
But the thing that sucks the most about it is that financially, Cyberpunk was a success. They sold millions of copies. So I don't believe that CD Projekt is truly learning anything from this yet.
No.
And I won't believe it until Cyberpunk is a fully functional video game.
Yeah. Even then, it's just like, this never should have happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just hoping that we look in the future and we see this game become like that of No Man's Sky, where it came out as a hot pile of trash, and then eventually they turn it around and bring it back together, and it just like becomes like the most amazing thing ever. But I don't know if they can, because I mean, there's still fundamentally like there's some stuff about like the thing that shocked me the most is the fact that this game was so big and so grandeur or whatever it is, and then people average completing the campaign in like 18 to 20 hours, which is shockingly short compared to the majority of games that are out there. And I mean, like, I look at, again, having been playing through Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I mean, that game has a lot of bugs throughout it, but I'm like 67 hours in the game, and it's a very, very, it's big, way bigger than this game. Like the world, the gameplay mechanics, like a lot of the different pieces, like there's so many elements in there that are, I feel like, deeper and larger and more grand scale, and it was made in like half the time, with probably the same size. I don't know, the team might be different in size, but it's just odd to me that they weren't able to pull this off, especially working on it. Because I look at Rockstar, I kind of compare this team to Rockstar a little bit, because they do focus in on one game. Well, they did until next year, but focus in on like heavily on one game. Just like, I mean, we had Grand Theft Auto 5, which, now they have the GTA Online side of things, but then they did Red Dead Redemption 2, which they spent a boatload of time on. Now, presumably, they're working on GTA 6, but it's not like they're doing 2 full-blown single-player IPs at the same time, I wouldn't imagine. But they seem to have a pretty good track record and make a lot of money, largely due to their GTA Online cash cow that they have currently. But and that's probably why CD Projekt Red is like, hey, we're going to have like AAA plus online, because they're like, we need to do what Rockstar is doing and pull in this like online component to make some cash somewhere, some way.
Real quick, back to your No Man's Sky reference, and we say that all the time. And I think after the new DLC the new DLC that's been announced for No Man's Sky, it's like, honestly, that's one in a million. No Man's Sky can, a game like No Man's Sky can come back, and I feel like, well, I don't know if it's a crutch, but I feel like it's a crutch to the game industry. And it's just like, oh, we'll just fix it later. And honestly, the more we say that, the more I actually hate that saying, because it shouldn't even be a thing to begin with.
Yeah, and I think that I agree that I would love for No Man's Sky or for Cyberpunk to be like No Man's Sky and eventually become great and truly live up to its potential. But the problem is that, especially from this article, CD Projekt is clearly not taking the steps to do that. with the announcement that they're going to work on not just another IP by 2022, but 2 simultaneous IPs. I don't know how you expect to make your current game good.
Yeah. It's
So
gonna be challenging.
it's like the amount of time and dedication and care that would be necessary to turn Cyberpunk into something redeemable is clearly not being shown by them. And and there's still like base level things that haven't come out yet, like the next gen updates.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You still can't buy that game for PS5 or Xbox Series X.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And who knows when that's coming? I mean, it was supposed to be like
CD Projekt Red doesn't even know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Might be written on a whiteboard somewhere.
This is part of our new strategy.
And by the time they make them, it's going to be on PlayStation 6.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next gen.
Dang it.